When I was 9, my dad asked me to write down my 10-year goals. One of mine was to start an orphanage in Africa. Almost 10 years later, as a senior at Bend High School, I heard a speech by a lady who had spent time volunteering in Zambia, Africa, and I knew immediately that that was my ticket to go. Less than a year later, I stepped off the plane into some of the hottest, brightest environment I'd ever seen. Everything was new to me. The red roads, the people, the language. I remember being so nervous, just like I am right now, and reminding myself to stand up straight and just act confident as I made my way to the handicapped school I would be working at. But within a couple of weeks, I started to feel really uncomfortable. I was living in the same conditions as every other Westerner in that area, behind a cement wall with armed guards, and I was served more food than was imaginable. When just outside the walls, the reality of the local people was so different. Malnourished children walked the street, 75% unemployment, 1 million children orphaned under the age of 15 due to HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. Not to mention the 75,000 street children and child prostitutes. Can you imagine? That's nearly the size of Bend, just in street children and child prostitutes. So I knew I wanted to make a difference outside the walls and started volunteering at an AIDS hospice and a school and a nutrition center. This was before the HIV drugs was very accessible, and people would bring their loved ones in wheelbarrows, just hoping to find them a comfortable place to die. One day at the nutrition center, my Zambian friend Violet and I came across 2 badly abused children. The little girl's head was completely bashed in. We took her to the hospital, and I soon realized that there was no place for her to go except go back into the home of her abuser or add to the growing population of street children. I wanted to go and check on her after she was released, but I was told that it was none of my business to stay out of the way because there was too many children in that same situation to help. That night I was so upset. I remember just tossing and turning. I was angry and I was sad, and I remember thinking, how could I just walk away? How could I not do something? Anything? And then I realized that my whole life was about to change, that no matter what, I had to do something. So I snuck out and found Violet, and we went to check on them. We discussed what we could do and decided to start a foster home for abused and orphaned children called the Vima Lupwa home. Lupwa means family, meaning that we weren't going to create like institutionalized style orphanage, but instead create family homes, taking no more than 14 children per each home and raising them to honor their own culture with a Zambian mother and father. I came home to fundraise and soon realized that that same message that you can't make a difference, that the problem is too big, was echoed to me even back here in the United States. And then I talked to my professor at COCC, Marlena Bellavia, who grew up in the Congo, and she was excited about the idea and became a co-founder. We didn't want to bring a team of Americans to Zambia, but instead we wanted to make this a Zambian project. We employed over 200 local Zambians to build the home, and we kept everything as local as possible. Even the bricks for the house we made from neighborhood termite hills. We weren't trying to make Zambians more like us, but we wanted to empower our Zambian friends to lift themselves up. I don't believe in charity. I don't go into an area assuming that I know how to improve somebody else's situation, but instead I want to ask them, how would you like to improve? And then try to provide them the resources to do that. I strongly believe that only Zambians are capable of helping Zambia. Another thing we did that was unheard of was we lived right where the home was being built, right in a garbage dumping site in one of the poorest city slums in Luancha. There was garbage all over the street, cholera, malaria, and an extremely high crime rate. But we refused to segregate ourselves, reinforcing that we were all just people by living under the same conditions and speaking the local language. It took us about $20,000 to build the home, and it takes us $1,400 a month to sustain it. That's only $1,200 per child per year. So on my 21st birthday, after 1 year of fundraising and 6 months of building, the home was completed and we received our first foster daughter. Our 10th foster child was a little boy named Alec. Alec came into our home as a malnourished alcoholic at age 5. Alec had been thrown away in a plastic bag by his mother. He was then sexually abused and forced to beg for money in the bars and on the street. Alec barely said a word or made eye contact with anybody for almost the first year he was in the home. Now Alec is in the 2nd grade, and every day the house is filled with his laughter and singing at full volume, which blends right in with the other children, all sounds of a happy home. That's just one story of the 14 children we have in the home. Imagine the possibility of these children taken into a home, growing with dreams of their home and helping other children. If we ignore the problem, then we continue the cycle of poverty and dependency. Don't be intimidated by its sheer size, because if a girl from a small town of Oregon can make a difference, I promise you can too.
Thank you, Molly. Can technology change education? I like you guys already. So this is an image from the late 60s of a CDC plateau. And for some of you that may recognize that, it's one of the first computer-assisted learning systems that ran on a mainframe, and it was delivering about 20 lessons on a mainframe. So big idea, but perhaps not so big impact. So certainly technology has changed tremendously in the last 50 plus years. And there have been many initiatives that have tried to use technology to change education, some very visible, like the one laptop per child, but most would believe that technology has failed to meet some of the expectations. I firmly believe that technology can transform learning. I really believe it can. I do know that there are a few myths and a few barriers about what it might take to change education. My talk is about real life stories where technology has advanced education. My talk is about 3 inspiring stories and 3 lessons where amazing people with big dreams have pioneered change, and also about 3 lessons that we can take from these stories and apply them in our own backyards and in our communities. But first, I want to show you something. So